Hey, what's up you guys? In this tutorial we're gonna work on this sailing lamp in 3ds Max and Substance Painter, so please like this video and subscribe if you haven't yet. Alright, right now we're gonna start working on this sailing lamp in 3ds Max, and the first thing we're gonna do as usual is to create a simple cylinder. So the first thing we need to respect is real world scale. We don't want to create something that is going to be too small or too big. At least we're going to have an estimate in mind so that we're not going to be making something that is going to be far from something that is going to be respecting real world scale. Okay, so this cylinder probably it has to have something like at least 20 sides, because the standards for creating low poly models for games is rising every year, and every generation is gonna be allowing us to add more polygons and stuff. So we're going to create this lamp using what we call the edge extrusion method. And in order to extrude these polygons, I'm holding shift all the time. So this is something you need to do in order to get the results you can see in front of you. Of course, in order to follow me, you need to know what are the shortcuts I'm using. I recently created a video about shortcuts, the shortcuts I use, and the hotkeys. You might want to check it out. And of course, as you can see here, I'm creating something generic, and this is an overall estimate of what I'm creating here, and you're gonna see me adjusting the size and the proportion of these pieces quite frequently from time to time. And this is because when you take a look from a distance, you're gonna realize that the proportion is not as good as you thought when you created it in the first place. So, or you can use a reference image that is going to make things very easy for you. I personally don't like to work from a reference image in the viewport when I have something simple and can be done just by looking at the reference image. And of course, this model is quite simple compared to what we usually create, but I think it's going to be good for those who don't know a lot about 3ds Max and how it works. Alright, keep holding shift and move that edge in order to extrude it, as you can see here. Alright, so we're gonna keep moving these edges up and down until we create something that we like. Alright, so the chamfer tool, as you can see here, is very powerful when it comes to creating these curves and stuff. I usually do this to create curves quickly and correctly. So if you want to do this, is going to be probably the best tool to do it. Alright, we're gonna do the same thing here probably. Okay, as you can see here, I'm changing the proportions a little bit because I thought that it's kind of a little bit bigger than it's supposed to be. Also here, I'm trying to bring it back to making it a little bit bigger than it's kind of the proportion between the proportion is related to pieces actually. So first of all, I made it smaller in proportion to the tube. Then I'm gonna make it bigger in respect of the whole thing, and to respect the size and the proportion of the ceiling lamp as a whole. But in the end, it's gonna look as it's supposed to look. All right, here we are trying to create some details, and we are using the scaling tool, and in order to do this, just right click on the icon, on the scale tool icon. As you can see, we are using the chamfer tool here as well because it's very effective, and it gives us some cool results. All right, so what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna create the lamp or the bulb holder, which is gonna be a small plastic piece. It's gonna be a cylinder basically, and we're gonna try to position it inside the body of the lamp here, and we're gonna make sure that it's gonna be positioned properly because later we might want to create kind of the inner side of the body of the lamp, and we're gonna right now it doesn't have any thickness, and when we add the thickness, probably this piece here is going to be a problem and is going to be complicating the situation a little bit. So we don't want this to happen, and we don't want it to push it too far inside, because as I said, probably we might need some space, some extra space that so we don't want to push it too far. Alright, so this sphere here is going to be used for the bulb, and it has quite kind of shape, a nice shape, and we can use a sphere as a starting point. Then we're going to delete the polygons that we don't really need, and we're going to continue with the rest of the bulb. So we're going to select one vertex, keep holding control, select the polygon to convert vertex selection to polygon selection. And right now we're going to do what we've done before, which is holding shift all the time and move the edges or the borders in order to create what you can see here in front of you. Alright, so right now we have to make sure that the bulb holder and the bulb are kind of positioned correctly in respect to each other, and of course we need to respect their position inside the body of the lamp. As you can see here, I'm trying to add some thickness by creating the inner side of the of this surface, and I didn't want to use the shell modifier because it's going to add a lot of unnecessary edges and surfaces and polygons that we don't really need. So I wanted to keep everything under control by doing it manually. And the main reason, just to keep things under control and to reduce the poly count. And of course, this piece here is simple. This model here is simple, but the problem is gonna have some probably several thousand polygons to it, which is normal, but nevertheless, we need to try to keep things at a minimum under any and all circumstances. Alright, for now we are trying to make sure that this area here is a little bit smooth because I feel like it has to be this way. Also, for now we're going to probably select everything, and we're going to create some layers. And these layers, one of these is going to be for the high poly and the other is going to be for the low poly. So right now we are in the middle, we are in between, and we're going to go two other ways, two routes. One is going to be for creating the low poly, which means that we're going to take this model and make it even, we're going to make it have even less poly count. And the other one is going to be for the high poly. It's going to be very polished and smooth, and it's going to have lots of polygons, probably up to 20,000 or something like that. So if you know what we're doing here, I think this is going to be easy for you to understand. But if you're new, what we're going to do here is we're going to try to create a low poly version that is going to basically be thrown into or inside the game engine. And the other one is going to be used for creating maps, specific maps that we're going to use in order to get some results that make the low poly version basically look like the high poly version when we create them, when we do the bake and texturing in Substance Painter. So for now we are working on the high poly version, and we are trying to add support edges and stuff in order to make it polished and smooth and everything else. This process is highly repetitive, and it's very obvious what you should do. So probably we're not going to explain too much. And really, we don't have anything to explain here because it's very obvious. And after we finish adding the support edges, we add the Turbo Smooth modifier, which is gonna help us to smooth things out. Of course, we're gonna need to remove the polygons that are not gonna be visible and are gonna be blocked by certain surfaces that are not gonna be moving anyways. So yeah. Okay, after we are done with the process of supporting the edges and stuff and adding the Turbo Smooth modifier, we're gonna work on the low poly version. So, according to the standards of creating a low poly model, we have to reduce the poly count of this model quite a bit. So we're gonna try to start with this area in which, of course, the outer side of this cylinder we have here has to have a solid number of edges and or sides, something like 25 to 35. But here inside this small cylinder doesn't have to have too many sides, so we're gonna try to reduce it a little bit, even though this is not gonna have a great impact in the beginning, as it seems like it's just one cylinder, but the whole area above it is gonna be is gonna have less, as you can see here, less polygons and less edges. So we're gonna select these, double click to select, and we're gonna hit Control Backspace from the keyboard in order to remove those. And as you can see here, there is a potential to remove so many edges just by performing this act here, and the whole thing is going to be reduced. Basically, we kept half of the sides. We can remove the whole thing here if we want to. Control Backspace to get rid of those. Probably here we're going to reduce some of the edges, remove some of them, because not all of them are necessary, to be honest. Here as well, probably we're going to get rid of a few. Alright, here as well we probably need to reduce the poly count a little bit, and to be honest, we could have we could have removed every second edge, but let's see where this is gonna take us. Okay, I think this is low enough for now. I'm trying to check the poly count. What is it right now? It is acceptable for now, and we can reduce the poly count a little bit if we want to, and we can keep it as it is. Okay, here from the inside, we can reduce the poly count quite a bit as well. Alright, so for now we're gonna start the process of the UV unwrapping, and it's gonna be simple, but probably there are some things that are gonna be a little bit interesting. So yeah, as you can see, applying the box mapping or any type of UV unwrapping tool is not gonna give us the result right away because it's a little bit complicated than that. So we're gonna try to do some manual work here. We're gonna try to cut some seams, so we're gonna select some edges, and we're gonna convert them into seams because we want to separate the different areas, since we want to deal with them individually and differently. All right, for the this section here, probably, as you can see, I am trying to remove that seam because we want to bring it back to being one piece. Alright, this piece here, we want to cut it individually as well, because we want to cut it manually because kind of these sections that are attached together need to be dealt with differently. So we need to isolate them, let's just say. Alright, so for some cylinders, we're gonna apply the box mapping method, and for some of these sections we cut manually. We apply the some other tools, especially the pelt, which is gonna be unfolding these surfaces nicely and smoothly. Alright, it seems like we managed to break down this big piece here into separate pieces, and I wouldn't say that this is perfect, but it is respectably nice. Alright, I'm attaching the separate pieces, Shift S from the keyboard, or just right click, state selected. Alright, right, for now we're gonna apply the checker texture to the pieces we worked on, and this is gonna be a very good way to see if there are any stretches, any disproportion, any problems with the UV islands. Alright, we're gonna cut the pulp into 2.5s. So spherical stuff probably are the hardest to UV unwrap because there isn't really kind of a clear way or a clear method of doing it. For the most part, it's not going to be perfect. The easiest way is to cut it in half and UV unwrap 2 halves. Try to flatten them, kind of make them flat, and relax them as much as possible. Alright, try to relax all these pieces a little bit and try to put them in a nice place. Alright, it seems like we have a nice result here, even though it's not gonna be perfect, but it is quite good. For the cylinder here is gonna be very straightforward and simple. Stitch select all these pieces together. Alright, it seems like we are done with the with UV unwrapping these individual pieces. And what we need to do right now is to convert one of these to a poly, and we're gonna try to attach every on all pieces together because we're gonna create the UV template. And the UV template is very important, and we're gonna use it a lot later, especially for texturing and creating maps for baking and stuff, for like the normal map and the AO and a lot of other maps that are going to be very important to create to texture our model. Alright, so for now we're going to try to pack all the UV islands together in one place inside this rectangle here, um, the 01 UV space, and we're gonna try to put all the pieces inside. Of course, we're gonna try to use all the space we have, and we're gonna try to solve this puzzle that has infinite solutions. It's not gonna be hard, but it's not gonna be easy also to use all the space we have, because it's inevitable that we're gonna leave some space out. So we're gonna try to use most of it, at least. This process can take an infinite amount of time, and also it can take only 1 second. It's kind of depends on how far you want to push it. All right, for now we're going to make sure we're going to name our models, the high poly and the low poly, properly. Of course, This is going to be very simple since we have a very limited number of pieces here. It's going to be very straightforward. We're going to use two types of suffix, one for the high poly and one for the low poly. So we're going to use LP for the low poly and HP for the high poly. And the other things, it doesn't really matter what is the name, other than if there is someone who is going to work on the project after you. In this case, naming is going to matter a little bit more. For texture, we're going to go to Substance Painter and open a new file or a new folder, and we're going to open the low poly version of our model, import to Substance Painter, as you can see. And the first thing we're going to do, of course, is to open the baking dialog or the baking window in Substance Painter, and we're gonna import the high poly version. And we're going to change some parameters, we're going to change the suffixes, we're going to change the value and the parameters of anti-aliasing and the suffixes, as I said, for the high poly and the low poly, because these are custom to what we they're created according to what we used inside 3ds Max. So we use the different suffix than we normally have inside Substance Painter, so we have to change it. Of course, we're going to change some other parameters for creating these maps, such as the ID, the normal, the ambient occlusion, thickness, curvature, and all the other stuff that we really need. And then we're going to start the bake. This is going to take a few minutes depending on how complicated your settings are. And after that, we're going to bring some smart materials, such as this steel material, which is a really good one. Import here to Substance Painter and drop it in the layer section. You're gonna see that this this smart material is really complicated and really nice to work with. We don't have to add anything. I really like it as it is, and for beginners, this is gonna be, or for starters, this is gonna be a good start. And we're gonna use the polygon fill tool in order to select the polygons or the areas that are gonna be covered with this smart material. And we're gonna bring another smart material, which is gonna be plastic. For this one, is gonna be this is gonna be assigned to the plastic holder or to the bulb holder, and it's gonna be very simple. It's gonna be very straightforward. We don't have to do anything in particular. We just have to throw it in there and let it be. Also, we're gonna change the color from the from this blue color to something white. We're gonna bring it all the up, we're gonna make it very white, and we're gonna duplicate this one because we're gonna use something similar for the bulb. Of course, you're gonna clear the mask and create another mask for the bulb itself. So we're gonna go to the polygon fill tool, select the bulb, and we're gonna change and kind of work on some settings. So for now, we're gonna go to texture settings, and we're gonna click on that plus icon and add the emissive channel. And when we go back to the our smart material, we're gonna check that emissive channel activated, and we're gonna do some stuff. We're gonna work with some settings to get the results we're gonna get. So we're gonna bring the emissive channel's color to something very white. We want some white color emitting or radiating from the bulb. And we're going to go to display settings. We're going to activate some effects, and especially we want some glow effect. So as you can see here, this is where you're gonna control the lighting and glowing effects inside Substance Painter. This is not really necessary. This is not a thing that you want to do inside Substance Painter, but it is a good way to demonstrate and to see what we are gonna get after we complete our model. So yeah. I hope this tutorial was useful, and I hope you learned something here. If you did, please consider supporting us on Patreon, because this really helps. And yeah, probably in the future we're gonna bring more value and more stuff. And if you want project files, of course you're gonna find them on Patreon. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.